With this year being the 20th anniversary of DMC3 and the arrival of a new animated series, I thought this would be a great time to go back and look at the original DMC anime from 2007 that has indeed divided fans. Devil May Cry by this point had 3 games, with a 4th on the way. The series was rich in lore, but most of it wasn't very accessible. Each game had a relatively simple story that always made this world feel much larger, and we were only getting glimpses into them. Now there was some outside media such as light novels and manga. The idea of a TV series set within the franchise's canon was exciting. The fans immediately imagined a series with the high octane action and deep compelling storytelling like that of 3 wrapped into a full package. That, my friends, is called wishful thinking. In all honesty, I enjoyed the series when I first saw it. I didn't really look at the flaws of the series because it was DMC. I was a blind fan for sure, but was it really that awful? I hadn't even considered the idea of the show being bad or having any hate towards it until, the internet reviews. People complain about the stiff action, cheap animation, patty. Hell, some even wanted the anime to just adapt the games. Well, at that point, you can just go watch a playthrough on YouTube. Anyway, let's look back at the series to see if any of that hate was warranted, or if the show actually has some charm going for it. The series takes place after DMC 1. For those who don't know, the timeline is a little wacky. DMC 3 is the prequel, making it the first. Although the manga is actually the prequel to that. And then the light novel is somewhere around here. And then the new series kind of adapts a little bit of this and that, and is somewhere, I don't know. And then DMC 1, and then the anime, and so on. The anime does not recreate any of the outside material, it offers its own original story, although it does reference those materials in an interesting manner. The series has 12 episodes and does have an overall story arc, but for the most part it's an episodic series. Each episode offers a different mission to Dante in which a new moral lesson or story and compassion is taught to our protagonist. A good chunk of the show is exploring humanity and these demonic tales, as well as revisiting segments of Dante's past. Oh, and Dante's depressed, by the way. I don't know if that crucial aspect flew over some heads with this show, but it's kind of really important. I know a lot of people think of Dante like this. Dante is an energetic guy who pops out quips as he demonstrates some of the most intensely bodily movements and fight choreography imaginable given his demonic genes. A lot of that just masks the fact that he lives a very fucked up life. He is the son of one of the most powerful demons ever and a human wife. His dad kinda just died or went to get milk, or it's not explicit still in the canon what happened to Sparta. We're told that he's dead, leaving Dante and his brother Virgil and his mother Ava to be victim of demon attacks. Their home was ravaged by demons, and his mother was murdered, and his brother lost, assumed to be killed. Dante grew up from a young age on his own and became a mercenary. While still in his youth, he witnessed horrible human tragedies during his missions. His earliest friend and partner was murdered by a clone of Virgil created by the demon king Mundus. And poor Dante had to put it down and wondered why the hell he just had to kill a man that looked identical to his lost brother. Which later resulted in Dante having to kill his old partner's daughter, who was locked in an insane asylum for seeing demons, when in reality, she was a damn conduit for the demon world. And Dante was still very young when this all happened. Then of course, the events of DMC 3 happened. Dante had to fight the real Virgil, who just dipped off into the demon world. 10 years later, a clone of Dante's dead mom sends him to an island where Mundus has enslaved Virgil as Nilo Angelo. Mundus literally removed his human heart and turned him into a demonic machine, who Dante had to kill himself. I'm merely scratching the surface here, but this is background knowledge which is important to Dante's character. And the show does give you enough to work with. Even though it's pretty vague, there's still a lot of on-screen information to infer. But let's be honest here. 90% of the people watching this are here because they're already DMC fans. Now thankfully, Dante had some friends along the way. Lady and Trish, and this guy Enzo. Lady left, Enzo lost his arm and retired, and Trish then also left. Dante is alone, miserable, and takes up self-destructive tendencies. He drinks and thinks about all the people in his life who aren't there. The ending cinematic would probably confuse someone wondering why is there such a slow and pretty song playing? Why is Dante just sitting there with a bottle of Jack Daniels. I thought this was the funny, wacky, woohoo pizza man. Well, this is Dante when he isn't fighting demons. It's evident in DMC 3 that Dante loves kicking ass. He revels in it. But it also serves as a mask for his immense pain. It distracts him from this, being alone, having to relive all the bad things in his life. Dante has a lot more to him than just this. And the anime, I think, is important for fully exploring that, and even more so, for bringing in Patty. The first episode has Dante put onto an escort mission by his broker, Morrison. The anime introduced both these characters, who made their in-game debuts in DMC 5.
Devil May Cry.
Dante, do you have any idea how many times I've tried to call? Like a zillion. Oh my god, tonight's my birthday party. Yeah, I'm turning 18. Not a little kid.
It actually opens with an action piece of Dante killing demons. Within the first minute, we've got some pretty slick action going on here. Clean animation for that interesting time period where we're starting to see the rise in digital means of animating. Hell, even 16:9 aspect ratio is still pretty new. You can see a lot of those cheap animation tricks, but they work. And look at those glares. Ooh. The show does have a share of animation mistakes. Dear God. I'm more than confident that they did not have the appropriate budget for this show, but considering that this is a show with more focus on its storytelling, it does its job, kinda. This show definitely has its money-saving moments. Especially moments like these, when the action is just cut out. I think a good way to describe this series is it's got great art, but not so much when it moves.
Next time you open up shop, don't forget to add strawberry sundaes to the menu.
I should go ahead and point out that this is a rare instance of me actually preferring the dub over the original. And I'm not one of those subtitle elitists, and I'm not trying to get into any of that. But I do personally believe that media should be enjoyed in its native language. Regardless, this dub has Dante's voice actor, Ruben Langdon, which just adds that sense of familiarity.
Bingo.
Dante's Japanese voice is provided by Toshiyuki Morikawa, an incredible voice actor, but I really need that Ruben Dante for this to feel right. That said, most of the series dub is comprised of Funimation familiars. If you watch dubbed anime from this time period, you're gonna recognize a lot of these voices.
Welcome to our hotel.
What in the time-mounting camera shot? The episode throws Dante into a babysitting mission. As you would expect, that's not something he's very keen on. We're immediately thrown several different problems of Dante's life. He's broke, he can't afford his pizzas or even pay his damn light bill. And he seems to be far moodier than he was in the previous games.
Shit, not again.
If you win, I'll pay your tab in full.
You're not much of a gambler, are you?
Shut up.
He's in a very self-loathing state at the very start of this. God damn, he could open a can with that chin of his. Now you see this? This is clean as hell. Who are you posing for? What? You think that truck driver shit his pants when Dante was aiming his whole ass blicky at him? Oh, and there's Patty. Oh, Patty. Patty's whole plot here doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but in all fairness, the writing in the show is not super great.
Tomorrow at 6 in the evening. That makes exactly 1 week, doesn't it?
If Patty Lobel's existence is authentically proven with
I think it actually does get better as it goes along. And the show does cycle out different writers, and it's very, very evident which ones are better than others. This is not one of them. So they believe Patty to be their heiress, an illegitimate daughter of some rich guy, and everyone's trying to get a piece of his inheritance. Turns out, she's not the daughter, which just so happens to have the same name as the real one. Okay, whatever, her story gets more interesting later on. The dynamic between Patty and Dante is really the heart of the anime. Her orphaned origin speaks something to Dante, who also knows what it's like to lose a mother. He reluctantly becomes attached to the little one, and they start to grow a sibling-like relationship, even though Dante is old enough to be her dad. This scene makes no damn sense. It also makes me question how the hell do people in this world perceive demons? Wouldn't everybody kind of just accept that they exist after the whole Tim and Negru incident? I don't know. After the mission is cleared, Patty, while returning to the orphanage, decides to stick around Dante to help his shop. And for the first time in a while, his loneliness has been alleviated. Patty's more interesting backstory won't really be explored much later, till the end of the series. The next few episodes are their own thing. Unfortunately, the second episode isn't super great, but it does have Lady. That's the highlight for this one. It's this whole biker drama. The demon killed biker's brother, and he wants to do the same exact thing that killed his brother. It's goofy. But Dante rides a bike, and Lady gets to do some cool stuff. Oh, now why is she posing?
Impressive skills.
Who the hell are you guys?
My associate and I represent the highway department.
This show is really dependent on its camera zooms, isn't it? The third episode continues the series' theme of blurring lines between humanity and compassion by throwing us right into a demon soap opera. Now, would you believe me if I told you the butler did it? The demon here is a good guy who falls in love with this nice, sheltered girl whose butler is trying to summon some demon. The dad spends the whole time being an ass blaming the good demon when in reality the human is the enemy here. The show presents its own awareness by having Patty consistently struggling to watch a drama series in the background of the episode. Something interesting that this episode does is have the demon directly ask Dante about his parents. Specifically, if he believed his demon father truly loved his human mother. In which Dante gives a very Dante answer.
Was there a love between human and demon? Who knows? You always hear stories about the lovers. They look like they were made for each other, but inside their hearts are as cold as ice.
That's not what I...
But I think a lot of those couples truly loved each other, deep inside their hearts.
You think so?
Was that all you wanted to say?
Hopeful with a dash of cynicism, Dante then spares the good demon so that he may have a chance at love himself. And Dante also rejected any reward money from this mission. Now, in case you're wondering why the writing in this episode feels a bit better than the previous, that's because this episode was written by Bingo Morohashi, the guy responsible for most DMC media. Episode 4 isn't super thematic, but it is arguably one of the most memorable episodes, also written by Bingo. This episode has Lady and Trish meet each other for the first time. Do I need to explain more? It goes about as well as you'd expect.
Demon bitch.
Usually these two have a fun chemistry when they're on screen together, but this was the first instance of us getting to really see that. This also gives some vague information about what Trish has been up to since DMC 1. This episode's a hell of a time.
Hello? I need some clothes from that rack by the goddamn front door.
Episode 5 is also a love or hate it episode. Not gonna lie, it might be a guilty pleasure for me. It's perhaps the most filler episode of the series. It's about this guy who wants to impress his crush, this waitress Cindy who works at Dante's favorite restaurant.
Cindy, what I'm saying is, he picked up some girl, took her to the women's restroom, and... Oh!
Which is where this famous meme image comes from. He starts stalking Dante and, well, you can imagine how that goes.
What's this deal?
Hey, dude! Hey! What's up?
It is a fun idea behind this episode, though, to look at Dante from the perspective of an average Joe.
So what, are you planning on eating with me?
Mm-hmm.
That's really all there is to it. Rock Queen. I love this episode. It really plays into a moral story here, a rather ancient tale of a musician selling her soul to a demon for fame and wealth. Dante yet again finds himself in a position of how to go about this mission morally, seeing humanity, average people victimized to demons, in other manners than just being killed. Seeing how it breaks away people, takes advantage of something as precious to them as a dream. The Rock Queen is turned into a monster, and the person who loves her has to watch idly, unable to save her. The price for her survival is heavy, but in the end it seems worth it. Dante, after all, proves that he does have a heart, and he gets a pretty damn good reward in this episode.
A tribute to the spirit of the queen.
7 is the Shawshank Redemption episode. A guy finds a demon who states he'll grant any wish, except that he doesn't, until it's the most inconvenient.
Drop dead, you bastard!
Dante is then recruited by this poor soul's sister to go save her brother, although the reward isn't quite what Dante is looking for. Dante goes undercover by throwing himself in jail.
Well, don't you look cute and talk cute? And this firm body of yours, so delicious. You be a good boy and do like I tell you, and I won't do anything mean to you.
You're the one who looks delicious, you pudgy fuck.
What the fuck? I guess, fun facts, that's the first F-bomb dropped in the DMC series. Jesus Christ. Well, after saving the day, we learn that the man's sister was a fucking ghost. Dante can't help but feel for the poor siblings and helping them without any reward. At the satisfaction of saving the... I'm sorry, can we rewind a bit? She's a ghost. That's a thing now? I mean, sure, we've got demons and whatnot, but we have ghosts too? What are we supposed to do with this information? What does this mean for the world? Yeah, good story and compassion, and Dante helps with the siblings. Huh. Now, this episode is where things get really interesting. This episode, we go back to Dante's past. Sorta. An old childhood friend of Tony drags Dante into some old stomping grounds. Now, Tony, short for Anthony, is the alias used by Dante, Tony Redgrave, which Dante used in the first light novel in his earliest days as a mercenary. It was actually going to be Dante's original name during the early development of the first game. Now, the story doesn't have Dante own up to being Tony, but we know that it's him. Ernest here explains that people blame a demon for destroying the small island and subsequently blame Tony and his adoptive mother. This is not Ava, his real mother, but rather someone who took him in shortly after his family tragedy. Sure enough, the demon attacked because it was looking for Dante. Dante takes it upon himself to clean up these horrific events that he possibly blames himself for. In the end, he makes himself seem like the villain to Ernest.
Bastard! If you hadn't been here, none of the people in this goddamn town would have died. It's all your fault, you murderer! That demon destroyed this town looking for you, you son of a bitch!
Oh, Ernest.
You deceived me and Miss Margaret. I'll never forgive you! Neither will those who die. Do you hear me?
And they cut out the action again. This episode ends with Dante cutting those ties of his past, riding alone on a train home. Say what you will, I like the poker episode, even if the ending is a little quirky. It was a fun episode. This episode centers on Dante stuck at a poker table where death just so happens to follow those who leave. It turns into a whodunit, wondering which of these players is the demon or the murderer. The answer just may surprise you. It was Dante. Before reaching the finale, we have one last story that has Dante facing off against the demon students of Sparta. Two brothers! Okay, yeah, I see where we're going with this. I don't really care too much for the character designs either. The kinder brother, Modelo, whatever, looks like he belongs in one of those shitty vampire shows. And the older brother looks like a rejected Kenshin character. Thank you, Trish. In a frenzy of swordsman pride and desire for power, the aggressive older brother, challenges Dante, not very smart, to get Sparta's blood. I mean, really, couldn't you just sit in the sidelines with a bucket and scoop some up? Do you really need it that bad? He bleeds a lot. But the younger brother then, in brotherly pride, challenges Dante for revenge. Also, not very smart. So these dumbasses died for nothing but their pride, which Dante respects, I guess. Just so their corpses can be used for Sid in the finale. The last two episodes run together, being the conclusion of Patty's story. Patty's assumed deceased mother is revealed to be a sorceress who is responsible for protecting an amulet that could release a big bad demon called Abigail. Feeling no longer able to protect it from demons, she brings it to Dante. Now this is something I didn't actually notice until this rewatch, but this is pretty neat. Look at Patty here. In the first episode, she couldn't even hold a pull stick properly. Now here in this episode, look at that. She's doing better than most kids on TikTok. She even knows how to chalk the stick. That's such a nice touch, a subtle sign of growth. It's not something that screams at us, but if you're paying attention, you'll notice it. I'd also like to think that off-screen, Dante was giving her advice how to play. That's so cute. As you might imagine, being that this is the finale, everyone's gonna team up against Frieza. Ew. Now how did Sid do that? Well, because old boy here thinks he's as strong as Mundus. Dante already beat Mundus. And then again, he did have help from Trish, so I don't know. We'll just pretend like this makes sense for a sweet moment of Patty risking everything to save Dante. What a nice visualization of her importance to Dante in this series. Quite literally, some light in his life when he needed it most. Yeah, you pull that sword out and save that man from his depression. Look at that smirk. Dante is back. Also, he can become a major edgelord in DMC 2. So, is the Devil May Cry anime overhated? I think a bit. I do. The animation isn't the best, but there's certainly that 2007 charm to it. Sure, it cuts corners, and the action in the series isn't the highlight. The writing is hit or miss. In all fairness, though, Capcom isn't exactly known for having the most deeply poetic writing in its works. And a good bit of that is also due to translation. And even when the writing's not super great, it's still in character, for sure, and it does make up for it in its sweeter moments. A lot of the backlash for the show goes towards the fact that people expected it to be a high-octane action series. There's a lot of DMC fans. It's a big franchise, but those who exclusively play the games lose a lot of the character work and lore. It's not entirely their fault, as a lot of that isn't super accessible. There is a downside to those who take the story at surface value and expect that same value in this series, because its greatest strength is how well it understands its core characters, and how well it builds on them. It's a great show for sure for character development. At the end of the day, it's not too much more to it than that. If you are a DMC fan, it's definitely worth checking out at least once for the express reason of better understanding Dante. If you're not a DMC fan, I'm kinda surprised you're even here. I think I personally enjoy the series because of its different perspective. If I want all the fun action, I can do it myself by popping in the game. I want a series for better exploring the lore, and even that I could still ask for more of. But on the other hand, it's fun to see the everyday life of Dante. Even these lesser missions that still carry such intense emotional weight. To see how Dante handles those situations on the daily. To see how outsiders view Dante. To see the consequences of being Dante. You can crap on the animation and action all you want, but this show understands its world and its characters, and it deserves praise for giving us a look at this series that we never really got before visually. It's only 12 episodes, you can knock it out in a day or two. So no, I don't think the series is a masterpiece at all, but it does have some merits to it. Are you a fan of the series, or do you think it's crap? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe as it really helps my channel a lot. Be sure to check out my other social media to keep up with the channel. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.